Even in the dead of winter, you have to agree that's a view. That also happens to be prime hunting country. And there are plenty of hunters around eager to take advantage of what the land has to offer. But the cooks to help the hunter out are pretty scarce. So join me here at Milky Way Farms and on Cooking Wild, and I'm going to have you eating like a king in your very own castle. Welcome back to Cooking Wild. I am from the South, but I've traveled extensively really, and I love the diversity of food that's out there. And in coming back to the South, what I have found with hunters and the cooking that we do here is there's just not a lot of diversity. So what I want to do is introduce some of the international food that I've been exposed to and that I've learned and that I love, and try to apply that to the game that we are hunting out in our back door. So today I'm actually working on something that is Italian based. We're going to do a venison ragu, and this is really versatile. It's a great family meal, but the wonderful thing about this as well is that if you want to do a dinner party, it's elegant. You can do most of it in advance, so it's kind of stress-free, and it's going to be something different that people, your guests, will not be exposed to, and they'll be really impressed. So why don't we get started? We're going to start with some venison. Now what I have here is ground venison. And this has actually been soaked in water with salt, and you exchange the water every time it gets colored. So over the course of 24 hours or so, you'll do 3 or 4 changes of water. And venison is this intense crimson red, really nice. But what you want to do is you want to extract all of those internal fluids, and then it becomes something like this. So we're taking about 1.5 pounds of ground venison, and then we have about 1 pound of venison sausage. And this is all wild caught, and so this is going to have a really intense flavor to it. Now what you get online or at a specialty grocer may not actually be wild. It will probably be farmed. And so it won't have the intensity of flavor, but it will still be actually very good. Let me just get a spoon. So what we're doing is we're browning our meat. And I had this warming. And we're going to let that brown. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to prepare a bouquet garni. And the best thing to do is just, you can get some cheesecloth. You can actually use an old dish towel if you have it, something of that nature. But for venison, it's really going to take on some nice, intense herb flavors like rosemary. So we'll do a couple of sprigs of that. We're going to do about 3 or 4 sprigs of thyme. This is really beautiful and fresh. And then we're going to take 2 bay leaves. And then also I want about 5 or 6 juniper berries. Again, these are intense flavor, so you don't need a lot of those to get the impact. So we're just going to tie this up and make a nice little parcel out of it. Like so. And then we'll tie this with string and get this ready for our meat. So you just want to tie a knot. And I highly recommend that you use fresh herbs and that you tie it off in a sack like this. And the reason you do that is so that the herbs don't stay in your meat. And after they cook for a while, they can go really dark and brown and be unattractive in the dish. The other thing is that the longer the herbs stay in the dish, the stronger the flavor will come, and it'll change the dish over time. So this way you get the benefit of all the cooking with the herbs, and then when the cooking is done, you can take them out and you retain your flavor. So I'm just going to go back. We're going to make sure this is browning. And we may need to turn this up a little bit. And we're going to add quite a few things to this. So what I've done in advance is I've prepared some sauteed onions. We have about half a pound of bacon that I have browned in advance. We have tomato paste, which we're going to add to this as well, some garlic, salt and pepper, and then of course the herbs. And we'll finish it off, of course, with some beef stock. So just as soon as this browns, and another thing that we're going to add, we're going to deglaze the pan with some red wine. And again, because venison is such a nice, intense flavor, it's going to take a red wine that is kind of full-bodied. This happens to be a Cabernet Sauvignon. It'll do really well, but just any kind of red wine is going to be good with this, but you kind of want to make it more full-bodied, not one of your lighter reds. So that is coming together quite well. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to add the wine first to deglaze. And this is going to be about a cup and a half of red wine. And that's just going to pick up those brown bits from the bottom of the pan and absorb those. The nice thing about red wine is that the acid in the wine helps to release those brown bits on the pan. So it's going to pick them up and flavor your ragu really well. Now, this is very typical of Italian cooking, brown ragu like this, and my recipe is actually based on an Italian recipe. They cook a lot like this, and this is very versatile. So this is going to be part of our main course, which I'm going to serve with cheese dumplings, but you could also use this with a lasagna, which would make a brown lasagna with a brown sauce, and it'll be absolutely wonderful. So again, cooking with your game can be a very versatile and flavorful experience, and that's what we want here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add the onions like we discussed. I'm going to put those in. I'm going to add the bacon. We're going to add the tomato paste. And we're doing about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste here. Of course, we want some fresh minced garlic, which I've just done as well. And there you want about 2 cloves. So not a lot, but you do want enough to give it some good flavor. We're going to add 4 cups of beef stock. And then we're going to tie our bouquet garni in there. And we'll just tie it off to the side of the pan here. You don't have to worry, this is not going to burn in the oven. This is cooking twine. And there we go. It's ready to put in the oven. So as you can see, this is very quick to come together. Doesn't take a lot of time. You can do this well in advance. If you do it the day before, it's going to absorb all of those flavors and meld together. It'll actually be better the next day, and you can just kind of warm it at the last minute when your guests are about ready to arrive, and you'll be good to go. So I'm just going to cover this. We're going to bake this for about an hour, and then it should be done, and we'll finish it off. So I'm just going to put this in the oven now. And we're going to be on to our next dish. Welcome back, and right now I'm going to show you what is going to become your new family favorite, I promise you. we're doing dumplings. These are cheese dumplings. Every Southerner has got to love this dish. It's actually very Italian, and you start with about 4 cups of ricotta cheese. And I know the first question you're going to ask is, hey, can I use cream cheese? They are very similar, but actually cream cheese is heavier and denser, and I don't know that it would turn out quite right. Haven't tried it, but I'm going to recommend that you stick with the ricotta cheese. It's really super easy to find. Just about any grocer is going to have this now, and you're going to find it in the dairy section where you'll find the sour cream and the cottage cheese. So again, I've not had any problem finding this, and I don't think you will either. All you're doing is you're taking about 4 cups of ricotta cheese, and you can see how creamy the consistency is. And you just don't get this with cream cheese. We're going to add about 4 ounces of Parmesan cheese for a little additional flavor, and you just mix it in like that. And then we're going to take a little bit of nutmeg, and a little bit is going to go a long way, so all you really need is about 1/8 of a teaspoon, and you're just going to mix this together. Now, that's it. So this is how easy these are. So you can make these in advance. You're not doing this at the last minute like you are with traditional flour-based dumplings. You need to do these at least a day in advance, possibly 2, because you can see from the cheese that this is a rather moist mixture, and you need to give it time to dry out. So this has come together. We're going to add just a little bit of salt, maybe just a little bit of pepper, and not a lot because, of course, the Parmesan has salt in it. That's already going to be salty, so you don't need a lot. And that's basically it. So now we're going to prepare the dumplings. I'm going to get some cornmeal. Now these are Italian, these dumplings, and in Italy they would use semolina flour, and that's a little difficult for us to get here. So I actually use cornmeal, white cornmeal, yellow cornmeal, it doesn't matter, and that's something very easy for us as Southerners to get. So it's very accessible, and I've never had any problem with this. So we're just going to put a little bit of cornmeal in a bowl, and then we're just going to start shaping our dumplings. And you want to scoop about like that, and they should be about golf ball size. So something like that, and you can see how easy they come together. If you're a chef, you might want to make these with 2 tablespoons, which a lot of them do. I just use my hands, and you can see how easily they come together. And then you put them on a bed of cornmeal. And the reason for doing this is you're trying to extract that moisture from the dumplings. And if you make them now, they'll actually end up falling apart in the water. They won't hold together. So again, we're just going to put them together like that. We're going to roll them in some cornmeal and move them to the bed of cornmeal that we have prepared so that they can dry out. So I've done this, and I've made some in advance, so we'll just move on. Do a quick wash. And we'll get this out of the way. But these are the prepared dumplings. And you can actually see how soft they were before, but they're actually now firm. And I did these 2 days ago. So the cornmeal actually helps to extract all that moisture again, and they firm up. So we're just going to dump these into boiling water, and I'll just do a few. And you want to try to get any of the excess cornmeal off of them. And with the recipe that I've given you, I've consistently gotten 25 dumplings per recipe, but they'll do about 25 to 30, depending on how big you make your dumplings. So we just need to give these a few minutes, and let me get a spoon so that I can pull them out, and a plate to collect them. I'll just move these back over here. And these will take a few minutes. Now, these are Italian, as I mentioned before. They are absolutely wonderful. Again, they're very easy to do. You can do them in advance, so if you're entertaining, they make an absolutely fantastic meal. Your guests are going to come. It's not something they will probably have had before, and it's not something they're probably going to have for a very long time. So they're going to be incredibly impressed with you serving this. And actually, this cheesy dumpling is going to go beautifully with that venison ragu. It's one of my favorites. But I will also comment, while we're waiting on these to get ready, you probably will have to be prepared for that guest that is vegetarian these days. And you can actually prepare a very simple butter sauce. So again, you're not involved with a lot of time here. Just melt some butter, let that start to brown, put some sage leaves in there. The sage will crisp up immediately. That is your sauce for the vegetarian who's going to be sitting at your table. So again, all of this comes together really easily, very quickly. And this is actually a quite famous recipe from a restaurant in New York called the Spotted Pig. And this has been on the menu there for many, many years, and it goes over wonderfully. So that's where this is kind of based, this recipe. So these are starting to come together. But this is just a wonderful way and a very different way of serving your venison. And one of the things that we do down south is we get our venison catch and we do way too much ground meat. And I wanted to start with that because I know you got that in your freezer and this is a great way to use it. But as we move forward through the program, through the series, I hope to introduce many different kinds of cuts to get you really excited about cooking and entertaining. And we are starting to have these float to the top. And once they float to the top, you want to give them just a couple of additional minutes to make sure that they cook all the way through. Otherwise, they might be a little doughy in the center, but you want them cooked so that they get a nice melted center, but you don't want to leave them too long or they'll fall apart. So I think these are actually good now, and we'll just take these up. And you can do these in batches. And we have done a few here. And then you'll just start your next set. And there you go. Now, how easy is that? We are getting ready for our final stages of preparation to serve, and the ragu is almost done. Just a final step in getting it ready. Now, this smells absolutely amazing, even if I do say so myself. But it's not quite done. We'll put this out of the way. What we need to do to just finish this off is about 15 minutes. Now I've already done this, but about 15 minutes before it's done and before you pull it out of the oven, we're going to chop up some mushroom, and then you're going to add some pearl onion. And the pearl onion you can get from a jar, you can get it frozen, or of course you can buy it fresh and cook them. But if you put them in at the start of the dish, they'll overcook, so you want them to still keep their texture. And then that's basically it. When you pull it out, you're going to add a little bit of sour cream, and depending on how much you've made, you can start with like half a cup, and you want this to be room temperature sour cream, otherwise it will curdle and it won't smooth out in your ragu. But we'll just try that and see. We may add a little bit more, but then you're just going to stir it in and mix it so that it turns a little bit creamy, and this is not curdling, which is always a good sign. I'm going to add a little bit more. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to go ahead and add this. It's a whole cup, and we'll put that in. And you can also use cream, but I personally like using sour cream because it adds a little bit of tang to the dish. And again, that marries really well with the venison. So we're just going to mix this. And you might want to put it back on the stove top just to warm through, but I see Debbie's here. Debbie, You are just in time for a taste test. Debbie, I am glad you're here for a taste test. You're gonna let me know what you think, okay?
Smells wonderful.
Well,
I can't wait.
That sounds good. Now then, I'm gonna get a couple of dumplings over here.
Oh, those are beautiful.
Thank you.
I think I could even do that.
Anyone can do this. I'm gonna give you a plate there,
Thank you.
and I'm gonna take one for myself.
I want to see how beautiful.
And
Those are wonderful.
we're gonna try this here. Now, Debbie has actually been helping me with the table setting. You know, we all have that friend that we can rely on when we're entertaining, who can help us out, you know, without too much of a problem. And that friend for me is Debbie. So Debbie's been working on the centerpiece for the table as well as setting the table. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
But I just want to say there are a couple of rules. Let's see, is there a fork over here? Let's see. Ah, yes. Let me get a fork. Here you go, Debbie.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of rules though. One, make sure that guest is on the guest list. Otherwise, it's a servant.
Definitely.
And you don't want that. The other is, let me just try this.
Oops.
I think that's really good. I'm very pleased.
Very wonderful. Excellent.
Well, there's also another rule when you have a friend helping you out, and that is don't overstep the boundaries and ask too much of them.
In other words, don't climb on the roof.
Right, yeah, my friend Anne-Marie, who invited me up to help her with her Christmas party one year and her tour of homes. She had me up on the roof, putting up decorations. She had me not only cooking in her kitchen, but going next door to use her neighbor's kitchen.
Goodness.
So I was going back and forth, and somehow Anne-Marie's able to get away with it, but some of our friends came in, of course, well after the party was underway, and they came straight to me and they're like, okay, dust the flour off your face and take the apron off. You're officially off duty.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, anyway, I want you to show me what you've done to the table, so why don't we go there?
Okay, thank you.
Debbie, this looks amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
How did you
you.
do that?
Well, it was easy. I looked in the yard to find out what was blooming. We have nandina, we have magnolia, and then went to the kitchen and found apples and tangerines and pineapple, and there we have it. 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Well, that was the other question I had. So this is kind of like just came together easily.
Just came together easy. You probably have something in your kitchen, lemons, limes. You have plenty of things that you can use on a last minute notice.
Well, I hope we've given you a lot of good ideas today. First of all, how to set up for a table, but then also how to use that game. So happy hunting.